Welcome to Evolve to Succeed, the podcast that brings together entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders and experts to talk about their journeys and explore the link between personal and business success. I'm your host, Warren Munson, founder of Evolve, a coaching, training and development company focused on enabling business and personal success and creating a community of like-minded individuals. Whether that be through our peer groups, one-to-one coaching, our training and development programs for you and your teams, or through our content and events, our mission is to get the best out of each individual and inspire them to be better both in life and in business. If you want to learn more about Evolve, including our beautiful co-working space in Ashley Cross in Poole, then please go to evolvemembers.com, where you'll find great content, insights, details of all of our services, and also information on our forthcoming events. For now though, let's get on with the show. Welcome to this week's episode. My guest today is Gerard McSharry, owner and director of Higherground, a flooring company that's been in business since 1990. Remarkably, Gerard has wanted to be a business owner since the age of 8 and is therefore an entrepreneur through and through. As so many of us know, being at the helm of your own business certainly comes with its ups and downs. And over time, Gerard has certainly been on that roller coaster ride. However, he has successfully navigated through all of these challenges and has some amazing wisdom to share, as well as thoughts on the meaning of resilience. Other topics covered include the challenges of transitioning Higherground during tough economic times, moving to e-commerce, making flooring interesting and appealing, his amazing approach to customer service, and why running your own business can sometimes feel like skydiving. It's a really great and broad-ranging conversation. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Welcome, Gerard, to the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here, Warren.
Really looking forward to our conversation. For our listeners, I suppose they should get to know a little bit about you. Tell them a little bit about yourself and the business Higherground that you own and run.
So ever since a young boy, I wanted to be a business owner. So going right back to the age of 8, I thought, I want to own a business, didn't know what it would be.
So what made you at the age of 8 decide that? Is it family? Is it?
Well, if I'm being honest, bit mercenary, didn't come from the best sort of start in life. So thought, well, I don't want to replicate this when I'm older. So what can I do to change my outlook?
Yeah.
I had a large family and my brothers and sisters. I was the youngest, and they said, well, people who have their own business, they do pretty well in life. So, as I grew and I got older, I thought, my radar was up for a business opportunity, and I had a business partner who started the business. It wasn't Higherground as we know it today. And he said, I need somebody to come and help me. He was growing the business, and I was only a young lad of 23.
Okay.
So I thought, here's an opportunity. So I went for it, took that, and I've been doing it ever since in one way or another.
Okay. Wow.
So it's been a long journey.
And when did the business morph into Higherground, and what does Higherground actually do?
So Higherground, we're a flooring company. We're based in Camberley in Surrey. But we have a larger reach than just our immediate catchment area. So we have an online store. We serve customers from all over the UK. We sell rugs on our e-commerce site. We've actually got a fitter today, as we're talking together, working on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, installing for an English client, a good client of ours. So
the weather's a bit better there than it is.
He sent me a beautiful little WhatsApp video of his view from his hotel window this morning, and it looks nothing like today outside here. But but that's a bit extreme. That isn't the norm to go to Switzerland. But that's how the business has developed. The fact that we're doing jobs such as that. So it's changed a lot in the time that I've been involved. But when I started with my business partner, it was very, very different to how it is today. And I bought him out. We worked together for 10 years.
Okay.
He sort of showed me the ropes. I got to know the industry. I got to know a bit about business as well, which was the main driver, because I wanted to have my own business. And I worked at it. He sort of retired, and then I bought him out because I wanted to take the business in a different direction, and that's where Higherground came into being in 2011.
So that was that rebranding piece at that point.
Yeah. So I was sort of looking at the way the world was changing, I guess. I was younger than, I was 25 years his junior, so he was coming up for retirement. He didn't have much interest to invest in the business, whereas I was younger and I wanted to, and I could see the way that the world was changing, and I thought, well, there's got to be a better way to how we've been doing it up until now. So with all the knowledge and the...
So were you just a more traditional contracting flooring business before?
Yeah, we hadn't really invested in the business. So it was just a very much run-of-the-mill or small family-owned one-man band shop, but took customers as they came. Never really went out looking for customers, and the appearance and the look and the feel was very different to how we look today. So it was called Kimberley Carpets. So it's quite a narrow. With the name, we sold carpets. We didn't really do much else in other flooring. It was just purely focusing on that, and it was low end. Don't mind saying it was low end, and it was a sort of rough and ready, remnants and off cuts and what have you, and after doing that for a period, 10 years, I thought, well, maybe there's a different way of doing this, because we got some better clients along the way. But I thought, well, let's try and reposition ourselves in the marketplace and rebrand us and put some investment into the business and try and drive it that way. So it was a leap of faith and a leap in the dark, because I looked around at other companies that I admired, not in my own industry, but outside of that, and I took inspiration from them. People like Fired Earth and Farron Ball, that made homewares appealing and interesting and desirable. And I thought, well, maybe we could do that with flooring, because as far as I could see in the marketplace, nobody was really doing that at the time. So came up with the idea for Higherground, and to bring everything under one roof and to give it a more professional, more modern feel. Yeah,
it's a beautiful looking brand.
Thank you very much. It's not been easy, like most things in business. But
journey of business isn't, is it?
It isn't. No, we were fortunate enough to work with a fantastic branding agency, which has been instrumental in shaping how we look and the professionalism that's portrayed in the business. So they've been instrumental in everything, the look and the feel, and they've been a pleasure. They've done some great work with the V&A, and they've done some great work with some gin labels that we'd all know. And so I was lucky enough, I was looking for a good brand agency to work with, and I googled a couple of websites that I liked, and I just rang up the company and said, I love your website, who did your website, who made your website? And they went, oh, this company called Warren Creative. So I got in contact with them and said, look, I'm looking for a good brand agency to help me shape what's in my head. I know what I want, but I don't know how to do it. So we had a meeting and set the wheels in motion. And we've been working with them ever since, and that's about 8 years ago. So. Wow.
And what was that transition truly like? Because obviously, from where you were to where you are now is a complete transformation in terms of your positioning in the brand and everything. But it can't have been a smooth ride to go through that transition.
Yeah, I could probably give you the short answer, or I could give you the long answer. As probably, we haven't got all day. I'll give you the sort of the abridged version. But when we went from the leap of, it was a leap of faith. Because
there must have been a moment you've just got to have that self-confidence, gonna do this and take the consequences. Should be great, but who knows? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've done a skydive once, tandem, and jumped out.
Braver man than me.
And jumped out of the plane with the hope that the parachute will open, and it's a bit akin to that, to be quite honest. It is a complete jump out and hope the parachute works, because when we changed, and it was a complete change from sort of the bottom end of the market to the top end, so we pretty much jettisoned most of our clientele, and we also happened to do it probably at the worst time you could possibly do this, which was 2011, in the midst of the biggest banking financial crisis the world had ever seen. Nobody was moving house, nobody was investing, nobody was spending money, banks weren't lending. There's no good time, is there? I mean, if you look back over the last 10 years, and we're talking about business investment, and business people want certainty,
absolutely, to
invest money. But if you look over the last 10 or 11 years, there's been no point where there has been any certainty. So
it hasn't existed since that 2008-9 situation, really.
Precisely. You know, we've had Brexit for 5 years, we've had pandemics, we've had 3 wars in the time that I've been doing my business. So there's, you know, you could sit and wait around on the sidelines, or you can just go, right, got to do it now, because if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So it was literally that. It was like, right, it's now or never. And I didn't have any funds, I didn't have any backers. I did it all off my own back. I don't mind saying that I put it all on my credit cards. Up to the limit, so much so that I think I had one card left with about £2,000 on it. Couldn't pay my rent. I was actually going to move into the shop because I backed myself to that degree and backed myself into the corner to that degree. But you think, oh, I've got an idea. I'm pretty sure it's going to work, and if no one else is going to do it, then I will. So that's how it started, and
at what point did you realise it's going to work?
I remember when we launched. So when we started in January 2011. So it was a cut off the end of the year, and we started 1st of Jan, and it was very slow to start. It was very squeaky bum time, as Alex Ferguson would say. You know, a month or two in February was slow, which is traditionally slow anyway, February. But it was slow, and then March was a little bit better, and then we sort of got through the year, and it started to slowly improve over the course of the year, and that year was much better than our previous one. We were 50% growth year on year, which was great, but I was still saddled with debt, which I needed to pay. So, you know, we carried on, and the business did well the next year, and you know, the housing market improved, and things started to improve from there. But what I realised then was you need to continually invest if you're going to continue to grow. So, and if you don't, you're going to stand still. So I was determined that this wasn't just going to be done and finished.
A blip and a simple exercise, and off you went.
Originally, I thought once we made that change, I thought this is great. We're there. We're in the promised land. But after 2 or 3 years, and it sort of evened out, you thought, well, actually, unless I do something more drastic, it's not going to improve again. So we continued to invest. You know, once I cleared off my credit cards, we continued to invest because we saw that was what if it happened before, then it will happen again. And as the economy improved, and as you invest, the two things married. So we benefited from that. And my brother, who's fantastic, who gives me some, even though he's not in business himself, he's a sage advice, and he did say to me when I was going through that difficult time when we rebranded and it was tough. He said the businesses that invest during a downturn are the ones that come out stronger when the economy comes back. And I thought he was just telling me that to make myself feel better.
Just being a good brother.
So I just thought, my brother's having a hard time, let's give him some support, even though at the time I didn't think what he said was entirely correct, but I do see that now with the clarity of hindsight that those businesses that do invest, even when times are hard, do benefit when the times are good, because they're in a better positions for the ones that haven't and maybe get left behind.
Exploit the opportunities when the upturn comes, whereas if you haven't invested and you've cut right back,
exactly right,
you've got nothing to go with again, don't you? And you start to overtrade and just don't.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot through that. You start back at the question, but I've learned a lot through that period, because you learn by doing.
Yeah,
you learn by it was a risk. I don't mind saying it was a huge risk. I put everything on the line to make it happen, but it has rewarded me. So when did it come good? It started to come good as we grew. We were lucky enough that some of our neighbours moved out of the building, so we managed to take over the whole building. So we managed to grow the business further. So when we started off, when we first launched, our showroom was about 1,000 square feet. It's now 6,000 square feet over 2 floors. So it's 6 times the size. Wow. The website, so I always had this idea of an e-commerce website. When we changed to Higherground, because obviously online is a huge thing for every single business. And I had an idea that this is the kind of website that I wanted, without realising the cost of that. And then once you're committed to a project, my brother, who I just talked about, is an IT programmer, and he said to me, I think it was something like a third of, or 2/3 of IT projects don't get finished, and 2/3 of them go 3 times over the cost. And so when I started off, I
really inspirational, motivational.
He only told me that afterwards. Not before, but so when we started with the website, and it clearly had to be a bespoke one. It became very obvious very, very quickly into the project. It had to be a bespoke one, because our industry is so sort of complicated. So the budget went through the roof, and I stopped counting after about sort of 6 months. Thought, well, I've got to see this out. I'm not going to mothball this. This has to be done. Yeah. So we saw it through, and then it launched about, what were we now? Just before COVID, actually. It launched the e-commerce site just about 2019, early 2019. Okay. And it was like, great, we're done. Perfect, it's live. And then nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I thought, I've spent all this money on this website and we're not getting anything. So, and at first, as a business owner, especially we haven't got a business partner to talk to, you just sit there with your head in your hands and you want to cry. And I looked and thought, well, I've spent all this money, so what's wrong with it? Why is it not working? We've got to find out.
Got to find some way of getting a return on the investment and getting traction. Yeah,
exactly right. So, and I know nothing. It's amazing what you learn when you run your own business, right? You have to. You've
got no other option at times, have you?
So, like, you type into Google, how do I get my website working? Why is it not working? And so, we did employ also a marketing company around that same time that we've been working with ever since, a company called Tiger Marketing. Sort of like they said, well, you need to do more SEO on it, because all your products there. And I was like, oh, okay, some more money, more investment. Yeah. So we got a really great guy that was an apprentice with us who came back and worked for us for a year and did all sort of the SEO on the website and beavered away and made it as optimized as it possibly could be. And then COVID hit, and lo and behold, everybody was sat at home typing in search engines. I want some flooring for my office because I'm not going into one, so I need this office floor sorted. So luckily we were coming up from nowhere. Then people were finding us, and where most other stores were closed, we were open.
You were still vibrant.
Because our website was active, so we were getting inquiries through. So through COVID, we got inquiries, and it's just the two things. There's a lot of luck in business. I mean, as 26 years, and
do you believe it's luck, or do you think you make your own luck?
Greg Norman, the golfer, said, "The harder I work, the luckier I get."
Yeah,
and I mean, it's a bit tongue in cheek, that phrase, but there is some truth in it, because if I hadn't made the investment in the website and made those decisions, of course, nothing would have come
persevered from it. It's quite easy sometimes in business, isn't it, to hit a challenge, to hit a brick wall, and just succumb to it.
That's the easiest thing in the world, to go
and then pivot and try and find the next shiny thing, instead of persevering with that idea, that belief that you had.
Yes. Exactly right, and there's another quote which is, the darkest part of the night is before the dawn.
Yeah.
And that any business owners that are struggling and finding things difficult sometimes and wondering why is that quote, I think, is something that I think of when you're going through a difficult period, because you think, well, like with the website, for example, which is just a small example of it, is like, well, I've spent all this money, we've got this website, it looks great, but it's not producing any revenue, so but why? The question is why? Why is this? So, you've got to find the answer to that. And when you're running a business, it is about finding the answer a lot of the time. You've got to try and find it from wherever.
And it's also trying to find the right people that you can trust and you can work with, because you've got to get some knowledge, haven't you, as the business owner, to be able to ask the right questions and know what needs to be done, but you're not going to be the one doing it.
Exactly right.
And it's, any hints and tips on how because you've obviously found some good people to work with.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. I've been lucky. Again, luck. Luck does play into it. You can work really hard and not get luck, but I think anybody in business who's successful, if they didn't sort of say at some point there was some luck involved, I think they'd be lying. Yeah. But yeah, we've been fortunate to work with the people that we have. I've sort of found them out. I've looked around. So when I'm looking at my business, for me, again, a bit of a cliche, but I sort of compare it to a football team. Yeah. I'm not a football manager. I'm not a massive football fan, but a good football manager always look at the weakest point of their team and try and improve that. And I think for me, it's the same with business. So I look at what's the weakest part and what can I do to improve that, because customers will sort of they'll see that anyway. They might not even be aware that they're seeing that. If there's a weak link, or there's something that isn't quite right, they might go and use a competitor. So you've got to try and make everything as good as it can be, and like that, it includes the staff, employing the best people you can find, attracting the best people, retaining them, making sure they're happy, incentivizing them, and bringing them along, and letting them understand the part of the journey as well, so that they're on board with what you're doing, because without good staff, without good people working with you, and you're not going to get anywhere. And so therefore we're lucky to work with the outside branding and marketing agents, but also the staff that we've got are instrumental in. I can't do it on my own. They're instrumental in success. Just like a
team, isn't it? It's the same as the football team. You can be the manager, can't you?
Just like the football manager, Jurgen Klopp can't go out and win the Premier League. Yeah, he's got to have his players out there doing it for him. So it's a similar. I look at it like that, because I always look at the weak points. It's easy to see what you're doing well and go, oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, we did well. That pat on your back, but that doesn't actually tell you, where your next order's coming from. And you always need to attract customers. You always need to, without customers, they're the lifeblood of the business, and you've got to have happy customers in retail. The American thing, the customer is king, but they really are, because they've got to be happy, and they've got to come back, and they've got to tell their friends, and you've got to surpass their expectations, and that's, it's not always possible, but you've got to strive for that. It's always nice when you get that email to say how delighted we are, and your great guys are great, and we're really, really pleased, and we've recommended you, and so forth. And that's that. The business is great, but that means more. The money is a byproduct of the business, but happy customers, is what makes us tick.
Drives that.
Yeah, exactly. It's what makes the boys happy in the store. What make every person that works at Higherground. When we get that positive feedback, it's really rewarding.
I talk about, one of the key metrics is in any business I'm involved in is that, and I use the term client delight. Yeah. And it's just, you got to delight the clients. It's not just delivering what they want; it's how do you delight them. And in that way, it's not. And they don't normally need to be big gestures and big things. It's the small things that make a great difference in client experience and customer experience.
Exactly right, because people buy from people. Business is sort of like a side of that, but people buy from people they like generally. And we're fortunate enough to have two great guys in the store who are great. They're very patient, they're very understanding, and they try their absolute best for each and every one of our customers. They're extremely knowledgeable, and they're brilliant at what they do. So that is really, really important when you're dealing with customers. They are, without customers, you're nothing. You can't, if we get a complaint, it happens, but we strive to rectify it. I have a phrase where I say with the customer, maybe we're in a situation where things haven't gone 100% as they should, and I would say, look, we both want the same thing. We want you to be happy. Yeah, you want you to be happy, and I want you to be happy, and we're gonna, until you are happy, until you said to me that I'm happy, we're not going to stop. So and then we treat every single customer that way, great, regardless of what they're spending. It's not about the value of their order. It's about the value of them as a customer of Higherground.
Brilliant. And you've gone through phenomenal growth. So what have been some of the challenges of that growth?
There's always challenges. As I just touched on earlier, between when I started and when I'm sitting here today, we've had, 2 recessions, I think. Maybe we're skating along on another one, possibly, at the moment, who knows. But 2 or 3 recessions. We've had, I think, 3 wars, unfortunately. And we've had a banking crisis, biggest banking crisis, as I mentioned earlier, and a pandemic. Just those alone are challenge enough for anybody listening to this who's in business. There's always challenges every day. There's challenges that present themselves. There's challenges with suppliers. There's challenges with products. There's challenges with all sorts of different things. But the things outside the business, the things that I've just mentioned, the global situation, that you can't focus too much on that. It's you got to look at it as sort of noise in the background, because although it's there's nothing you can do about it.
You can only do what you can do.
Exactly.
Best foot forward.
Exactly right. And there's a quote about, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that there, it's right there.
It's a great quote, isn't it?
It is a great.
It's one we should probably all remind ourselves on.
Absolutely, because
from time to time.
Yeah, because you can sit with your head in your hands and watch the news, and I did it all through Brexit because that was having an adverse effect on my business because of all the uncertainty around, and it's horrible to mention the B word, isn't it? It seems like it's in the distant past, but that did have an effect on us and the business, and it was frustrating for me looking on, but. One thing it's taught me over the whole, when I look back, I'm 50 now, so I've been doing this over half my life, and I try and take some solace from the fact that when I say that we've been through 3 wars, pandemic, and all the rest of it, that we're still here trading and still
growing,
doing okay, still growing, yeah. So, you can find reasons to not invest, you can find reasons not to do things. It's always easy. You can just turn the TV on and watch the news, and you go, well, I'm not going to invest this year, I'm not going to do this year because this is going on in the world, but. You got to look at what you can do in your own business to change your own business, to improve at those times, and because you've got to attract customers, whatever business you're in. Essentially you've got customers, and you've got to try and find a way of attracting those to your business. I'm always looking at that and minded on that, and trying to focus my attention more on that than what's going on in the world.
Definitely. And
so the challenges, of course, there's going to be challenges. But it's how you overcome them and how you work around them. And so for us, we try and improve customer loyalty. We try and improve the product offering that we have. We try and give people products that they wouldn't see anywhere else. Okay. So and excite them about when they flooring. Truth be told, flooring isn't the most exciting thing in the world. Okay, but that's how people perceive it, or that's how people have been taught to perceive it by a lot of the other companies in the marketplace. What we try and do is turn it on its head and actually make it a purchase that people are engaged with and enjoy
and excited about it.
Well, precisely. And some of the products that we sell they won't see anywhere else. So we're lucky enough. We work with a lot of interior designers, and they love bringing their clients to us because we can do it all under one roof. So they see products that they won't see anywhere else. They come in and they haven't seen this, and a lot of people aren't aware of just what's out there. Some of the runners that we sell are absolutely beautiful. They're handmade in England, and people come in, they've never seen them before, and they go out happy because they're really excited, and it's really lovely when we receive an email from them saying, we absolutely love what you've done. So it's trying to find points of difference in the marketplace. It's trying to find anybody running their own business, you gotta look at what's going on and see how you can be different, how you can stand out from the crowd, how you can increase your market share, even when times are hard, even in recessionary times, or when there's a war going on, a pandemic, or
whatever's happening out there. And out of interest, how are you seeing that? It's interesting. Most of the people we talk to on the podcast are probably business to business providers in some way, shape, or form. You obviously B2C. What's it like out there in the consumer market, do you think, at the moment?
I think we've in some ways we've made a rod thrown back a little bit because we've set ourselves up to a high standard, and hence the name. We strive to be the best that we can be every single day, and that's you don't always get to it, but that's what we do, and most of the time we do, and our customers tell us as much. But it's people are more discerning, people are more quite rightly so. People spend a lot of money on their homes, and they want their homes to look as good as they can, and so we feed into that, and we show them things to make that happen. So people are more, when times are hard, and cost of living crisis and everything else that's going on in the world, and people are more careful with their money, and they want to make sure they're getting good value for money. And so we're always having to be aware of that, and we monitor our prices to make sure we're competitive against all the bigger names, and also the smaller ones as well. And we'll always be competitive. We'll always give people good value for money, because that's critical. Although people look at Higherground and they think higher prices, it's going to be expensive. Right? The way they look at their showroom, look at their website, these are going to be a costly outfit, and then they're always pleasantly surprised when they get the quote and they say, well, how come you're cheaper? How does that work? I said, well, because we aim to provide the best service that we can at the best price, because we respect the fact that you're spending money with us, and it's hard-earned money. So it isn't easy in the marketplace at the moment. Things are toughened up for sure in the last few months, but it just makes you work harder to to earn the
be
trust.
sharper. And, just be.
And to earn the trust of the customers, because when they spend their money with you, it's a privilege. We don't take that lightly. They're spending their hard-earned money with us, and it's a two-way thing. But we absolutely make sure they're getting the absolute best value that we can give them.
And I'm really interested to have a conversation with you about, you built the business from a kind of physical perspective, supply and fit, people walking into a store, showroom, that growing. And you've now, clearly, we talked about it earlier, you've developed this online offering, which I assume is supply only. How have you found having a business that now has probably got two very distinctly different aspects to it?
Yeah, it does. The two things sit together. They complement each other. So what we tried to create online is a reflection of the experience in store.
Okay.
So when we started with the showroom, that was an enjoyable part of the process, apart from paying for it, of course. But the creativity part of it, and the same applied for online. So although I didn't design the website, I had a idea of how I wanted it to look and feel, but that was more.
So you took the same principles and approaches that you want it to be an experience.
Yeah, exactly right. So the branding company understood that. They'd been to our showroom and they said, right, we want to replicate what the customer gets in store. We want to replicate that online. We want to give them the same look and feel, that same experience. So they get that same. So if they're sat at home and they have never been to the store, they can understand what Higherground is about, and get that same confident feeling in using us. Because obviously when you come to the store, you see the investment, although it's grown over the years. You see that we're a serious company, and what we do we take very seriously. So people have confidence in that, but obviously not everybody can come to the store. If we're selling a rug to somebody in Scotland, then they're never going to come to the store. So trying to replicate on that line was really important. But the website does more than one thing. It isn't just purely an e-commerce store. It is a way for people to engage with us, to find us first and foremost. So now most of our customers who aren't in the immediate geographical area will find us through our online presence. So it's the engine that is driving the business. So where I had my head in my hands, some 4 years ago, why is it not working? Well, it has repaid its investment, because although we do sell a lot online, and it is a growth area for us. Each year we're growing in that area, and we're going to increase our offering online. It's a driver for inquiries as well.
Okay.
We're fortunate enough that we are in a position in a relatively affluent area of the country, in the home counties and Surrey. So there's a lot of chimney pots, there's a lot of customers
and
around.
You've got good geographical reach from here, haven't you?
Absolutely right. So, we go into London quite a lot. I'm in London on Wednesday this week, into central London, where people find us, and interior designers and people that we work with. So, we're only an hour from London, but also geographically, there's a lot of people on our doorstep. We service people supply and fit up to about an hour away from Camberley. So there's a lot. You can imagine there's a lot of business in an hour. If you draw a circle around, there's an awful lot of potential customers there. And our job now is to make sure they know about us.
Yeah.
So that's
it's the marketing branding piece coming on.
It is exactly right. So the website is. You asked me about the website and the showroom. So the first thing a lot of people will find when they're looking, if they go online, they obviously want whatever it's a rug for their home, or they want a hard floor for their kitchen, or whatever it may be. They'll type into Google, they'll get an idea what they want, and hopefully we'll be springing up on the first page of Google. That's the idea anyway, and if it isn't, then I need to know why. But that's the ultimate aim, isn't it? So, and they do generally, they find, so when I'm sort of going to a client out of area, what I mean by out of area, sort of not within a stone's throw of the store, and I ask, where have you heard of us? It's generally through the website. So the website is a very important, integral part of that. And then when I always encourage them to come into store, and the two things marry, they sit together comfortably.
So they're not two distinct things. They're very much one supports the other.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And in terms of you say you've spent half your life now owning, running, participating in this business in some way, shape, or form. What effect has being entrepreneurial, being a business owner had on your own personal life?
There's been some long hours. For sure. Anybody who runs their own business will probably tell you that. It's not for the faint-hearted, for sure. Looking back, you sometimes do. You have your moments thinking, is it worth it? Has it been worth it? But by and large, yes, it has. I mean, I couldn't imagine working for anybody else. I think I'm pretty much unemployable. I think
we all.
I don't think anybody would have me for 5 minutes. But the good times are great. The hard times you only got yourself to find the answers from. You got to find them from somewhere, because ultimately people's livelihoods lay with you. So it's great employing people, it's great in growing a business, it's great all those things when things are going well and everyone's doing well from it. Making people redundant is the flip side of that. We haven't had to do that once in 26 years. That's a horrible thing to have to do. I know people who really struggle with that. It's because these people become part of your life. Yeah. The people that they've got mortgages, they've got families, they've got kids. So you've got that responsibility with you all the time. That these people depend on you, and they depend on your decision making, because as great as the guys are that work for us, and they are great, that they're not the ultimate decision maker. I'm the ultimate.
Buck stops at one place.
Exactly right. It's why so many Premiership football managers have been fired this season. It's an impossible job, but not everybody can win, and it's in football terms anyway. But so when you're making business decisions, I have a sort of a rule of thumb that I try and always abide by, which is when you're weighing up a decision, what's the best that can happen and what's the worst that can happen. So you sort of like a plus and minus column, and if the pluses outweigh the minus, I think, well, the downside if this doesn't work, okay, it might cost X, but on the upside, this could happen. Then you sort of, okay, well, try that. And I'm still here after 26 years, so maybe that stood me in good stead. I don't know, but there have been some close run times, when you think, okay, maybe we'll do this, we'll try this, well, let's do this because we're in a competent position, we'll try this, and it hasn't worked, or it doesn't work. But as long as it doesn't ruin the business, as long as that downside isn't catastrophic, and you can recover from it, and you go, right, okay, well, I learned from that, I'll pick myself up and move on and try the next thing. And say, okay, well, maybe this will work. So, like, the website was one of those moments, thinking, well, I put my absolute faith in it and a ton of money in it as well, and thinking, well, this has to be the future. It is the future. Everyone knows online is the future. I mean, it's not. It's no
for retail, you've got to create that experience, but you've got to be online in some way, shape, or form.
Well, exactly. But a few people made a few remarks, which is like, which is true actually. I mean, I remember when I first did the showroom, and we were so quiet in those first couple of months. We lost all our clientele because we're not going in there. That looks too expensive, right? Because we've gone from the bottom end towards the top, the better end, and so we lost all those customers. And I thought, oh God, I've lost all my customers. Where are the new ones coming from, especially in a downturn? And I said, jokes, I've created the best carpet museum in the world. So I had a friend who quoted that back to me. He said, how's the carpet museum going? I said, yeah, it's still looking like a museum with not many people in it, but yeah, it's a beautiful looking museum. But so there's that. But yeah, there's been challenges.
There's always challenges, and anybody that says anything different,
yeah,
ain't telling the truth, are they?
No, exactly right.
And I'm going to have to ask this now. We started this conversation around, the 8-year-old you wanted to be a business owner. So, if you went back to that 8-year-old, the vision that 8-year-old had of running a business and the one that is the reality.
It's funny, because I actually remember that conversation with my older brothers and sisters. I was the youngest, so there's a lot. Being the youngest of 5 kids, you don't really get much airtime anyway. No. So this is actually quite a pleasant change. It's just me and you, so and I'm getting most of the airtime. When I was a little boy and I was the youngest, and so you don't really talk too much, but everyone else chats. So I was hearing the conversation. It's something that I sort of picked up on, because we realised that the money was not in abundance by any stretch when we were young. And I remember that quite clearly. That moment, that seed was planted at 8. But I think there's a lot of people out there, probably maybe listening to this, that maybe at a similar age things sort of come to the fore. And before that, I wanted to be an architect when I was about 5, but that never happened. But I do have a deep love of architecture. I'm lucky that I get to see some incredible buildings.
See some incredible buildings.
Oh, I do. I get some incredible properties, and that's a part of the job that I absolutely love. Going to some of these clients' houses and thinking, this is gorgeous. And I always am interested in the history of the buildings and what have you. So my first love is architecture and the buildings. So that I'm lucky in that sense. But when I was 8, I thought, right, I must have, the mercenary penny must have dropped or something in my head, thinking, okay, well, architect's not going to work, so let's business, ding, let's do that. So yeah, look, there are times, Warren, there's been plenty of times in 26 years where I could have just turned the key and just happily drove away for the last time and thought, I can't do this anymore. You know, and I think any business owner will recognise that.
Resonate with that.
I mean, I remember, not a good story to tell, but I remember one particular before I was just about, when I had the idea of Higherground, and I brought my business partner out, and we were sort of in this transition period for a year, and I was sort of like just getting my thoughts together, and I had a manager at the time, and he wasn't the most honest of fellows, and he was had his hand in the till for about 2 years, and almost bankrupt me. Don't know the exact figures, but it was 50,000-60,000 at the time. Could not afford to lose that sort of money, and left me in a very precarious position. For 2 years I had to work on my own 6 days a week. I did the accounts, the bookkeeping, everything on my own. It was just me and nobody.
The way we'd survive or
absolutely. Each day just putting one foot in front of the other. But I remember the day that I found out what he'd been up to. At 5:15 the heavens opened. I mean, it's comical to look back, but the heavens opened. It was the middle of summer. It was July, so the heavens, it was damnation, and the rains came down, and the whole store got flooded under 6 inches of water. And I sat there and watched it happen. Just as I was about to lock up, I just realised this guy had gone away with all this money, and then it was like God was showing his descent, and the whole place got flooded. I watched it. Just the whole shop be flooded. I just wanted to cry. I thought, I just want to pull the door over. And I'm done. I'm out. But and I just wanted to cry. It was just me, and clean it all up, and carry on, and just put one foot in front of the other. And that was a quite a difficult period. And
that kind of leads. You strike me as a very resilient character, and I suppose that is an example of that resilience. How are you so resilient, do you think? Is it a case of just putting one step in front of the other?
Yeah, it is, but I've probably got to thank my dear mum, I think, for that, bringing up 5 kids in the way that she did, with the challenges. I look at all my challenges and I think, what
just showed you an example.
Yeah, what my mother would have done. Well, she wouldn't have complained about it. She would have just got the hell on with it. So, whenever I'm sort of feeling a little bit low or a bit, beside yourself, you think, well, my mum would just get on with it, so just get the hell on with it. Because, I do moan and whinge, don't we all? It's like, I'm sure if my wife listens to this, she'll only tell you too well how much I moan and whinge. But you got to get it off your chest somehow, and it's difficult. But yeah, you just get on with it. You have to. What's the alternative?
Yeah.
What is the alternative?
Yeah. Definitely, there isn't.
You give up. Somebody said to me once, "What's the opposite of success?" It's not failure. It's giving up.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's some truth in that, and I've wanted to give up more than most. I can tell you, but what am I? I can't be employed. What am I going to do?
I suppose that leads on to sort of one of a couple of final questions. The first one would be, after 30 odd plus years, kind of in an industry, how do you stay so motivated and passionate about that industry?
Coffee, mainly.
It was the first thing you asked for when I met you today. Can I have a coffee? So that's truth. There's truth in that answer.
No, it's I found a document a few weeks ago. Like you're clearing out your PC, and there's documents you don't get rid of. And I found a document that I wrote in 2009, 2010, just an old Word document, and I just written down the things that I wanted Higherground to be. It's before it ever came into being, so it was where I was at that time, and sort of 2 pages of A4, and right, this, and I found it just out of chance a couple of weeks ago, and I read it. I went, wow, that's interesting. Tick, 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 tick. It was like all that, and all those things, I've done all those. I've done it's all done. And I sort of say to my wife when she listens, somebody picked me up from that point there and dropped me today in the show that we've got on the website and everything. You sort of think, well, how did that happen? How did that all happen in 10 odd years?
How did that all come together?
Yeah, how did that all just come into fruition? And writing down things is a key. Even if you don't go back to it, but you've written it down, it's there, it's a document, and
there's some way it commits you to it.
It does, even if you don't show it to anybody else. And I only showed that document to maybe 1 or 2 people, And so it's there, and it almost like holding yourself to an account of, right, that's what I want to happen. Now I've got to make it happen, and it focuses your mind to do it. And everything comes from your thoughts and what you want. So it's important that what you have in your head, you get it down on paper, you look at it, you reflect on it, you adjust it, and then you put it into action. And where we are now, I look back. It's nice to look back and go, well, we've done all those things, and that feels like success, whatever you want to say success is. However you want to label success, it feels like, well, from where we were there to where we are now, that's definitely a success of some sort, right? So it's like, well, okay, where do we want to go for the future?
I was going to say, so what next?
Yeah,
what
what next?
Plans?
Exactly. So that takes you on to, well, where are we going to end up? Now we've done what we've done, so we've finished the showroom, that's all done. We doubled it in lockdown. We did the website live, the new one last year. It's in spring, it's live, so that's done. But the website is like a big animal. You've just got to keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it and improving it. So we're on that journey with the website to just keep finessing it and getting it better and making it the best that it can be. But that's, again, a never-ending journey. And the business, as far as the business is concerned, is, we had a really good year last year, which was our best year ever. This year started great, but you can't rest on your laurels. It's not, you can never sort of sit down in business and go, yeah, great, that's it, I've done it. It's not, it isn't.
As soon as you've done that, everything
falls apart. Yeah,
everything starts to go backwards quite quickly.
Exactly right. So when I look to the future, I sort of have a sort of 3 to 5 year time frame. I've written down things that we want to do in that period. We're happy with the showroom where it is. I don't think we're going to run out into multiple showrooms. That isn't, when I was a young. Maybe when I was 8, maybe when I was 20, I thought that'd be a nice idea. Let's have 10 showrooms. I don't think that's where we're going to go. I think we're just going to be where we are for now, be happy with what we're doing, and just continue to give great customer service and focus on that, and make sure everybody's happy in the day-to-day running of the business. And look at other elements that we can add to the website. We've always thought about maybe lighting or home furnishings or things, because our customers, when they come to us, they're generally doing a lot of work on their properties. They're generally refurbishing them or extending them. So they're in the mindset.
So there is more you could sell to the existing base in terms of that kind of matrix.
I think so, and all the elements are in place. The website is done, so it would be add-ons if you like. So we just consider. Well, I've always sort of got one eye on that and seeing we get emails. I get emails all the time from different suppliers who now are on the radar, because you grow a business. People are seeking you out and they want to partner with you. So, I'm always looking at that. I've probably got to go. I've been guilty of not going to enough trade shows, international ones. And going to those and seeing what's out there and thinking, what can we bring into Higherground that we can bring to our customers that they may like. So, if we want growth in that way, I think that's what we might be looking to do in the next sort of 3 to 5 years. But I don't think I'm going to be opening any more. So it's just doing more of the same and just making sure that we're not going backwards, that we are still going forwards.
Brilliant. Watch this space, listeners. I always end with the same question, and it is one around, you've defined quite clearly, I think, what business success to me means to you. But what does personal success mean to you?
I've never wanted to live to work. That's never, I never wanted to take over my life completely. Never wanted to define me. But that's, running your own business, it's quite difficult.
At times it does, however hard you try.
It does, and it's, I care passionately about what we do. I care passionately about the people that work for us. I care passionately about our customers. That's a real driver. So it's hard not to separate yourself from that. When things are going great, everything's hunky-dory. When things aren't going great, you take it's hard not to take it personally. So it has an effect. But I do like my business. It does well. It's given me a nice life. It's afforded me the things that I've wanted to have. If I look back, it's been a long journey, but it's been worthwhile. At the moment, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. There's plenty of times, if maybe had this conversation in a different year, I might say something different to that. But looking back on the whole, the perseverance and the not giving up, it has certainly been worth it to get to this point. And we're in a good place now. So it's everything is as it should be.
And work to live, not live to work.
Absolutely.
Perfect. I've really loved our conversation. If people want to know more about you, but importantly want to know more about Higherground and visit that website, where can they go?
They go to higherground.co.uk and get in touch. You can send us an email or you can give us a call on 01276 63809, and we'd absolutely love to hear from you, and we'd absolutely love to beautify your house and become a customer of Higherground.
Perfect. Gerard, I've really enjoyed our conversation. There's a few things that I've sat here listening going to take away and have made me stop and think. So it's one of the reasons I do the podcast, is to have conversations like this. So I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for being a great guest on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. My hope with every episode is that you've learned something new or heard something that challenged your way of thinking and further motivated you on your path towards becoming a more knowledgeable, informed and inspired individual and business leader. If you enjoyed this episode, then please help us by rating, reviewing and subscribing. We really value your feedback and would love to have you along for future episodes. And please don't forget to learn more about Evolve by going to evolvemembers.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.